Everyone has ambitions. They talk about their plans, their ideas, their next big move. And on the surface, it sounds impressive. But when the talking ends, the real question remains, what have you actually done? That's where many people fall short. They get so caught up in articulating their dreams that they mistake discussion for progress. But ambition without execution is like potential energy that never turns into motion, full of possibility, yet going nowhere. Talking can become a comfort zone. It gives us validation, especially when others cheer on our ideas and intentions. It feels good to be heard, to be seen as someone with a plan. But validation that's not earned through action is shallow. It fades. The real measure of what you're capable of doesn't lie in your declarations. It lies in the visible, measurable evidence of your work. If you say you're an artist, people should see the art. If you claim to be a coder, show the product, the app, the tool. If you're a speaker, there should be speeches. If you're an entrepreneur, where's the startup? Where's the solution you created? Real skills aren't just spoken about. They're demonstrated again and again until the world has no choice but to acknowledge them. Let's face it, ambition is common, but consistent action is rare. That's why it stands out. That's why the people who do the work quietly, diligently, and without needing applause always rise. They're not waiting to be discovered through words. They're letting their results do the work. They're not wasting energy on convincing others of their potential. They're investing energy into becoming undeniable. In this world where noise is everywhere, tweets, captions, promises, pitch decks, bold claims. What cuts through isn't louder talking, it's clear doing. And when your work, in today's world, where everyone has a platform and nearly everyone is talking, it's easy to get swept up in the performance of self-promotion. Social media is filled with declarations, people announcing what they're going to achieve, how they're going to change their lives, start a business, write a book, launch a brand, master a craft. And while there's nothing wrong with ambition or confidence, what the world is really looking for, and what it ultimately respects, is proof. Rhetoric, no matter how polished or persuasive, is still just words. Words can inspire, they can energize, but without action behind them, they dissolve quickly. The world has been sold too many empty promises to take them seriously anymore. You can only say, I'm going to do it, so many times before people stop listening. Eventually, you need to show them. Results are what validate your credibility. Results are what build trust. Results are what make people believe in you. Not because you told them to, but because you gave them no choice. And this applies in every area of life. In business, employers hire based on experience, portfolios, and what you've already done, not just how well you speak in an interview. In relationships, people trust consistency over grand declarations. In leadership, followers are moved by what their leaders model through behavior, not just what they command through speech. Even in your personal journey, self-respect grows when you follow through on what you say you'll do, when your actions start to align with your vision. Talking about your plans may feel productive, but it's not. it can become a kind of procrastination disguised as confidence. You get the dopamine hit of anticipation without the discomfort of actually doing the hard, often messy, real work. And this is where most people get stuck, in a loop of saying but not showing, planning but not producing. That's where dreams wither. Because no matter how eloquently you describe your goals, it's your actions that either move the needle or leave it untouched. Results don't have to be flashy. They just have to be real. They don't have to go viral. They just have to exist. Whether it's a product built, a problem solved, a skill refined, or a transformation lived, the visible result is your voice in the room when you're not there to explain yourself. It is your best evidence. It is your loudest advocate. And when you let your results lead, people begin to follow, not because of what you said you would do, but there's a unique strength that comes from doing your work in silence. In a world where everyone feels pressured to broadcast their every move, every goal, every tiny step of progress, choosing to keep your head down and just build isn't weakness. It's power. It's a quiet defiance of the need for external validation. It's the decision to trust your own process more than you trust public applause. And over time, this kind of focused solitude cultivates a confidence that is unshakable, not because it's loud, but because it's rooted in something real. When you work in silence, you create without interference. You give yourself the space to experiment, to mess up, to get frustrated, to revise, and to grow without an audience watching your every move. You remove the performance aspect of development and focus purely on improvement. That space is sacred. That's where skills are actually refined. That's where potential transforms into capability. And because you're not spending energy trying to convince others of your progress, you're able to channel it entirely into your craft. Silence allows for humility, and humility, ironically, is where true confidence is born, because it takes strength to keep going when no one is clapping. It takes inner resilience to push forward when there are no likes, no retweets, no attention. It takes a deep belief in what you're doing, even when no one sees it yet, to stay consistent. And when you show up day after day without the external noise, you start to develop a quiet pride, a kind of inner certainty that says, I don't need to prove this to anyone. I know what I'm building. This approach also protects you from the pressure of performing too soon. When you constantly talk about what you're doing, you invite expectations before your work is ready. And that pressure can become heavy. It can cause you to rush, to compromise, to deliver things before they're truly refined. But when you work quietly, you give yourself the freedom to focus on excellence rather than optics. You're not working for attention. You're working for mastery. Over time, the confidence that comes from this silent action begins to radiate. You don't have to tell people you've grown. They notice. You don't have to declare your competence. It shows. There's something undeniably powerful about someone who doesn't speak much about their skills, but performs with quiet precision and grace. There's a moment in every journey where talking feels easier than doing. We speak about our plans, our visions, our next steps, and for a while, it feels like progress. We write lists, set intentions, tell others what we're aiming for. But what starts as motivation can quietly turn into a trap, the illusion of movement without any real momentum. Because the more we talk, the more we start to believe that talking itself is action. That saying, "I'm going to," is somehow equivalent to "I did," and that belief is dangerous. It dulls the urgency to act. Talking can become a form of procrastination. It's comfortable. There's no risk in telling someone your goal. No rejection, no mistakes, no visible failure. But doing exposes you. It challenges you. It demands effort, vulnerability, and often discomfort. So it's tempting to linger in conversation, to stay in the realm of hypotheticals and what ifs, rather than get your hands dirty in the work. But staying there too long pulls your attention away from where it matters most: execution. We live in an age where sharing is instant. We can post about our goals, tweet our ambitions, announce our intentions, and immediately receive likes, support, even admiration. That instant validation can trick the brain into thinking something has already been achieved. But in truth, nothing has been built yet. No skill has been sharpened. No project completed. It's just noise. A feel-good distraction that consumes time and energy, while progress stands still. The real cost of excessive talking isn't just wasted time, it's divided focus. Every time you explain, justify, or hype up what you're going to do, you're borrowing mental energy from the work itself. You're channeling attention outward instead of inward. And slowly, that outward focus eats away at your capacity to create with depth. You become more concerned with how your efforts appear than how they actually function. You begin to measure success by how your process looks rather than by what it produces. And then comes pressure. The more you talk about your big plans, the more you create public expectations. You build a version of yourself in people's minds, one that you now feel obligated to live up to, even if you're not ready. That pressure can paralyze. It can make you avoid starting altogether out of fear of not living up to the hype you created. In trying to prove your worth through words, you may end up stalling your own growth. The truth is, your most valuable energy belongs in the doing, in the creation, the experimentation, the small wins that accumulate behind closed doors. That's where progress happens. That's where skills evolve. When you resist the pull to over-explain and instead invest that time into your work, you begin to shift from being someone who just in a culture that often glorifies visibility. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that being heard all the time equals being valuable. But in reality, speaking all the time doesn't make you powerful. Being intentional with your words does. Constant communication can dilute your message. When you're always explaining, always promoting, always sharing every step, people stop listening closely. They become numb to your voice, not because you're not capable, but because you're not selective. And when everything is said, nothing stands out. There is a strategic balance to communication that high performers, strong leaders, and impactful creators all understand. Speak when it matters. Not every move needs an announcement. Not every thought needs a platform. Not every step forward requires commentary. When you speak less but say more, when your words are rooted in evidence, action, and timing, they carry weight. They have gravity. People pause to listen because they've learned that when you speak, it means something is happening. This doesn't mean you go completely silent. It means you learn the art of measured visibility. You develop an instinct for when your voice will amplify your work and when it will distract from it. You recognize that building your craft, your product, your skill set is often more important than narrating every step of the process. You choose your moments of speech with purpose to update, to connect, to lead, to clarify, not to chase attention. Speaking strategically also requires a sense of self-trust. You have to believe that your work will speak for you in the right time, that you don't need to overcompensate or over-explain to be seen as worthy, that your value isn't determined by how loud or frequent you are, but by the substance of what you bring. When you're confident in your direction, you don't rush to explain it to everyone. You speak to those who need to hear it, and you let your consistency confirm the rest. Strategic speech allows you to conserve energy too. Every time you communicate, you expend focus, mental bandwidth that could be used to build, solve, create, or refine. When you're constantly in a mode of presentation, your mind shifts from performance to productivity. And that's not where deep work thrives. Deep work requires silence, solitude, and attention. And in that quiet space, you do more than speak. You become. And then there's credibility. When people see that you don't speak unnecessarily, they begin to listen more intently. When you do, your reputation begins to precede your presence. You create anticipation, not fatigue. Instead of always trying to prove your value in real time, you let your work gather momentum and let your voice come in when it can. In the end, your most powerful marketing tool isn't your voice. It's your consistency. It's what you do repeatedly, not what you say occasionally. That defines who you are in the eyes of others. Skill, practiced and proven over time, becomes the foundation of a reputation that no speech, no social post, no explanation could ever replace. Because when you're known for what you consistently deliver, people stop questioning what you're capable of. They already know. Reputation is something you earn quietly and carry loudly. You can't shortcut it. You can't fabricate it. It doesn't come from declarations, but from demonstrated results. The meetings you show up to prepared. The work you finish without needing praise. The solutions you bring when others are still stuck in problems. The way you operate when no one is looking. These things, often unnoticed in the moment, add up. They form the invisible trail that leads people to trust you, recommend you, follow you, and believe in your ability before you even open your mouth. And the truth is, real skill doesn't need to introduce itself. When you master your craft and apply it with discipline, the world begins to take notice. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because your impact traveled further than your words ever could. You start to stand out without trying to. You enter rooms and people already associate you with value. That's not ego, that's legacy, built one action at a time. Letting your skill set build your reputation also means you're not waiting on others to validate your worth. You stop chasing external approval because you know your results are speaking volumes. You've replaced noise with evidence. You're no longer caught up in proving. You're too focused on improving. The people who matter, the ones who create opportunities, who collaborate, who invest, they notice substance. And substance is born from showing up day after day, doing work that matters, and growing in your lane until you become unmistakable. The best part, when your reputation is rooted in skill, not hype, it becomes resilient. It holds steady through setbacks. It doesn't crumble under scrutiny because it was never built on smoke. It was built on sweat. Your skill becomes your shield, your resume, your calling card. It's what opens doors for you, even in rooms you haven't stepped into yet. It's what others remember long after the conversation ends. It's what people reference when you're not around, and what earns you respect, not through performance, but through